Hey, listeners, welcome back to the Mindful Living podcast. I'm your host, Sana, and let me share with you something. There's a quiet promise we often hear around meditation that if we sit long enough, we breathe deeply enough, or practice consistently enough, inner peace will arrive. But for many people, that promise feels distant, or worse, it feels like another thing they are failing at. So, today's conversation isn't about selling peace or glorifying mindfulness. It's about understanding what actually happens inside of us when we sit with ourselves and why that process can be both unsettling and deeply human. And let me tell you, listeners, my guest today began this journey not through curiosity or trend, but through loss. At 16, at his father's deathbed, he witnessed a calm he had never seen before, a serenity that appeared only when everything else was released. That moment planted a lifelong question: why do we wait until the end of life to let go? And after years of searching and decades of practice, he now teaches a non denominational meditation practiced across 4 continents, designed not to escape life, but to meet it with an open heart. So, today we'll talk honestly about meditation, mindfulness, inner peace, and the misconceptions that often keep people from all three. So, listeners, let's get on to it and let's welcome my incredible guest, Stuart Perrin. Stuart, welcome to the Mindful Living, and it is really, really an absolute honor to have you here with us.
Sana, thank you. And it's truly an honor to be here to share what I have learned in my life with you and your audience. And hopefully it can benefit people. So thanks for having me.
And very, very, very interesting origin here, Stuart, because before we try to understand the entire dynamics or what exactly happens or how meditation and mindfulness and our inner peace work in our lives, your journey, it began at your father's deathbed. Like many people encounter mindfulness through, or maybe through podcasts or through um, uh, applications or wellness culture, but yours came through grief. So do you believe that inner peace or that calmness that you encounter during those moments is something that we cultivate, or something we access only when we are forced to let go?
Well, the only way I can describe it, Sana, is it changed my life.
Okay.
And I don't believe there are any accidents in life. One has to be able to listen to what life teaches us. And
Mm-hmm.
when I saw my father lying 2 hours before he died in a bed with total serenity, complete clarity, it's like he had like attained a state of samadhi. He had
Mm-hmm.
let go of everything, all the conflict in his life, all the tension. When I looked into his eyes and I could see 1,000 miles there, took his hand and I asked him if he knew me. It
Mm-hmm.
shook me to the core of my being. And I said to myself, Stuart, why did my father have to wait 49 years,
Mm-hmm.
2 hours before he died, to experience, this serenity, this state of ananda, this kind of bliss he had? And I said, why? I never saw him like that in his lifetime. And I knew how chaotic and crazy I was as a young man. I knew how insecure I was and how much tension there was inside me. And I knew that it was so profound, the tension, so deep inside me. I couldn't fix this myself. I didn't know how to fix it. There was so much chaos in me that I said, Stuart, you got to find somebody in the world who has mastered this and who can teach you how to get past yourself. And, it took 9 years. I was 16 and I traveled half around the world. When
Mhm.
I was 25 years old, I met this person. But it was 9 years of incredible difficulty,
Mm.
insecurity, not knowing what my purpose was in life, why I was even born, what I'm doing here, except there was so much chaos in the intention.
Mm.
And the future, there was no future because there was no present. The present was tension and more tension. The present was anger, wanting revenge, wanting something, silly in life that really just did nothing but make me unhappy. When I learned from this particular person I met, who's a
Mm.
teacher, how to use the tools I was born with, how to develop something which I knew about, but I never knew clearly about it, how to develop a chakra system inside
Mm.
myself, a link between myself and higher energy or God or whatever one wants to call it in the universe. When I began to discover these things, that I was born with the tools to do this, my mind,
Mm.
my mind, which was a chaotic creature when I was younger and created more problems for me than I needed. The tension was very severe. My breath, I always kid around. I said, you cannot eat for, 2 months and live. Try not to breathe for 5 minutes. When I
Exactly.
discovered that breath was like prayer, breath was one of the most powerful instruments we have. When we inhale, you understand, we take in life. We take it
Mm.
all of life. When we exhale, we let go of a part of ourselves. It's like that, Hindu mantra, so hum. When you
Mm.
inhale, you say so. When you exhale, you say hum to yourself quietly. So hum means so the inhalation, I am. That is hum. I am one with everything. So 8 billion people are walking around praying 24 hours a day. Yet
Mm.
8 billion people don't know how to use that breath consciously to develop a chakra system that will give them a direct connection with higher creative energy so they can begin to receive the Shakti that is being given from literally, what is infinite in the universe, the source
Mm.
of all creativity in the universe. I discovered that a human being was a triangle between their karma and life and the objective world and their activity and how they live in the world and their connection with spirit. They exist at at a point in a triangle that it connects the two. And what the reason why it doesn't work in people is they don't have training. They don't know how to use the mind and the breath consciously.
Mm.
So what they are a product of is endless chaos inside themselves. It's like the plumbing in a house. If you don't clean the pipes, it's all going to get congested and come out the kitchen sink. And that's basically what the head is the kitchen sink. The energy, the Shakti can't flow inside people. And it just backs up into the head. And the tension, the problems, the chaos is so severe that it makes life difficult for people. So meditation is really, I always tell people, meditation is not a spiritual life. Meditation is non-denominational. Doesn't matter if you're Buddhist, Hindu, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, it doesn't matter. Meditation is learning to build one's humanity, learning
Mm.
to build a system inside that is strong enough to be connected with higher energy, but more importantly, how to keep the human heart open. The heart is the seat of love, it's the seat of joy. It's, and I always kid around and say, happy people, people that can sustain happiness. And they're basically enlightened people. They've arrived at a state of the highest levels of their own humanity. And they arrive at that state because they built inside themselves a chakra system which is strong enough, so that they can keep the heart open. Now, there are elements involved in this, Sana, which
Mhm.
is important to understand. There are seven
Mm.
basic chakras in a human being. There's one in the forehead, usually called the third eye. There's
Yeah.
one in the throat, one in the heart, one right below the navel, one in the sex, one at the base of the spine, and one at the crown of the head, the crown chakra. These seven
Mm.
chakras are all connected to the spine, and each and every one of them is a link to higher creative energy in the universe,
Mm.
spirit, God, what's infinite in the universe. And the problem is that these chakras are not developed. And even a bigger problem than this is people don't know where to go inside themselves to build the foundation, the grounding. I mean, if you build a house, the first thing you put in is the foundation. A
Yeah.
tree has roots, plants have roots. Without roots, they wouldn't survive. People walk around and they spend 98% of their time in their head. And that tension and the polarity, the whole conflict that goes on in the human mind keeps them from ever having a strong foundation. So what I learned from this great master who I studied with, his name was Rudy, Swami Rujananda. His picture's right above my head. And
Okay.
what I learned from him was how to use the mind to develop the chakra inside me that is where the grounding is, the foundation is. And I learned how to focus this took a lot of training because I spent
Mhm.
most of my life just hanging around in my head. And I had to
Mm.
reverse that habit, which I was so used to. So learning how to focus my attention in the chakra below the navel, the mind becomes a surgical instrument that opens the very core of your being, the power. It's like the lotus base that a Buddha sits on. Anytime you see a picture of a Buddha, they always a lotus base. The foundation has to be open and strong. So the mind acts like a surgical instrument that opens that foundation. This is the beginning of learning how to do really deep meditation. And building that foundation enables one to then open the heart. And I tell people, all you need to open your heart, and this is really true, is just gratitude.
Mm.
And this, we have gratitude for the food we eat, the people in our families, our friends, our jobs, the work we do in the world. There's so much to be grateful for. And it's a simple sense of gratitude that allows the heart to open. And the heart can stay open because a person has learned how to ground themselves inside by building the chakra below the navel. The chakra that the Japanese call the hara and the
Mm.
Chinese the tatien. The base, the very core of a human being's inner life. Then the next thing is breath. Have
Yes.
to learn how to master our breathing. And the breath, as I said before, when you inhale, you take in life.
Mm.
So you learn how to bring the prana, the energy of breath, into the chakra in the heart. And because there's gratitude, the heart will be open. And
Mm.
that energy of the breath, that prana, that powerful energy, it will expand and strengthen the heart chakra. My teacher used to say that. He told me, he said, chakras are just psychic muscles. If they're
Okay.
not worked, if they're not developed, they just atrophy, they waste away. It's like your
Mm.
physical muscles. If you don't go to the gym and work out or do hatha yoga or something, the muscles begin to atrophy. So
Mm.
meditation is about, you know, keeping these psychic muscles from atrophy. And as you breathe into the heart, you just feel gratitude and joy in this wonderment of being alive. Of every breath we take is sacred, while we have this gift that's called life. This gift
Mm.
that can teach us how to transform suffering into an open heart. And the next step is to exhale the air from the heart center and then breathe in again and bring all the air down into the chakra below the navel, right into the core of your being. Bringing that air, that breath will bring again the power of life right into the core of your being. And it develops the very foundation inside you. And, it really creates the chakra below the navel, the foundation, the openness and gratitude in the heart. And when a person learns to do this, the mind gets quiet. And when the mind gets quiet, one can begin to receive real knowledge, real wisdom, the Om sound. One becomes connected with higher energy in the universe. There's room inside us to receive it. We are not damming up the works inside with all the chaos. So meditation is literally a craft that teaches us how to develop the thing we are born here to learn how to develop, our humanity. We develop compassion. We develop forgiveness, patience, the ability, to find joy in life, to recognize the sacred nature of life, the very sacred nature of the breath we take to live, the food that we eat. We begin to recognize that we become conscious of all these things, and becoming conscious of all these things enables us to do what we are born here to do, and that's to work out our karma. To work out, how do you work out your karma?
Mhm.
Happy people are enlightened people. You know, we live with love, we live with compassion, we live with
Mhm.
kindness, and we are able to share that kindness with other people. We no longer are at odds with the world. But in order to do this, the craft of meditation teaches us, enables us to open and develop this chakra system, this thing in most human beings that people might read books about, but they're not aware of how to truly work it and develop it inside themselves. So it took me 9 years to find my teacher, Rudy, who taught me everything that I just explained to you. And not only taught it to me, he, I mean, it was an incredible 6 years that I spent with him. And his training, what he demanded of me, I almost felt like, Milarepa and Mappa, that great story where Milarepa, he was like a black magician in the dark and a criminal, and he knew he had to change, and he went to Mappa, who was one of the great Mahasiddhas of his age. And Mappa, he said to Mappa, I want to be your student. And Mappa said to him, okay, build me a house. My wife and I need a house. You know? And Milarepa built him a house. When he finished the house, Martha said, no, no, we decided we want it over there. Tear it down and build me another one. You know? And Milarepa built 13 houses for his guru. And what could have been left of his ego? Nothing. Nothing.
Mhm.
He became the poet saint of Tibet. He became one of the greatest Mahasiddhas of Tibetan Buddhism. Nothing can be. And what I went through with my teacher, Rudy, it was very similar. It was very similar. It wasn't building houses, but it was building Stuart, breaking
Yeah.
Stuart down, getting rid of my ego, getting rid of all these ideas of what I thought were right and wrong and my opinions and, what I thought about the world, and opening and learning to listen to life and letting life be the guru. My teacher gave me the training to be able to sit in front of the real guru, which is life. And life is continuously teaching us day after day what we need to do to grow. All we have to do is learn to listen. To learn to listen, we have to build a system inside that is strong enough to keep us from being, getting involved in all that internal chaos and conflict and tension that exists inside a human being.
Hmm. And Stuart, lots of thoughts coming to my mind. To begin with, one particular statement that you made, I think I'm definitely going to retain it lifelong, and that there is no future if there is no present. This is such a beautiful, such a practical statement as well. Because sometimes, and I believe that this is exactly the gap that kind of, puts a wall between um, the quote unquote practical, the real world, and the world of spirituality. Um, that, we kind of feel as if to attain enlightenment, or to achieve, to perfectly meditate, or to master breathing or mindfulness, we have to have all the required resources, and that is completely out of access. And that's what I believe kind of creates a gap, that, misconception that, only the gurus, or only special gifted people can only achieve enlightenment. But the way you explained, that, it's all within us. It's just they are not activated. They are like dormant. They're activated, and meditation is such a beautiful way to activate those seven chakras.
Well,
Um,
Sana, that they say when a student, a disciple is ready, the guru will be there.
yes,
And I really
exactly.
believe that. I mean, this is not just some fantasy saying, you know. When I was ready, when I was ready, my teacher, you know, I mean, he used to have an antique art shop in Greenwich Village in New York. I had walked past that shop 500 times. I never went in. One day, my life was at such a point that I was ready. And I walked in
Mm.
the door and I met him. And then I asked him a year later, Rudy, what happened that day? And this just kind of breaks my heart. He said, I saw you looking in the window of my shop, and it was like seeing my son lost in the universe. I just pulled you right in the door. So when somebody is truly ready to learn, and I was truly ready to learn, I had listened to myself long enough, and I knew that if I continued, I was just going to make myself crazy. When somebody is truly willing, ready to learn, the teacher
Mhm.
will be there. They will be there.
Yes.
And then when you talk about the future doesn't, I realized years ago, look, there is no such, the future doesn't exist. It hasn't come yet.
Yeah.
The past is dead. It's
Yeah.
over with. We have already lived through it. Why continue to relive the past when it's just something like a shadow? The only thing we have in life is now, the present. And the reason why people don't function in the present is all the chaos inside them. The mind is running between, it's like a ping pong match between the
Mhm.
past and the past, afraid of the future, guilty about the past, memories, this, instead of living in the moment. And when you begin to live in the moment, you realize the moment is all inclusive. And everything that's ever been, ever will be, exists in this moment. And if a person develops their chakra system and inner life and gets strong enough to live consciously in this moment, the future will
Mhm.
take care of itself. It will take care of itself. You don't have to worry about it. Karma becomes something on your side. And I can
Mm.
tell you that my life has, I've lived this way most of my life. Without worrying about the future, working on the present, and doing things that sometimes I thought were really crazy in the present. And, uh, and I did them, and it turned out they're the exact choice I needed to make in order to be able to make my future successful. And I didn't
Mhm.
know it at the moment, but it all worked out. And the reason it worked out wasn't that I was sitting around plotting my future. I was doing my inner work and building an incredibly strong foundation in myself, getting my heart open, getting my mind quiet, living in the moment. And I discovered that each moment is the present. You know,
Yes.
you go from
Yeah.
moment to moment
That's
and every moment is the present. And we are required in the present to keep developing ourselves and becoming more conscious. Recognizing that infinite energy, God, spirit, Shakti, whatever one wants to call it, is beyond all human comprehension. We can't, people have been trying to figure it out since the beginning of time, and nobody's ever succeeded. It's beyond all human comprehension, but it is an energy force that when you have mastered your chaos inside, it guides you. It comes and it creates your life for you. And you really begin to trust it because it works much better than my mind ever worked.
Hmm.
You know? So it's our responsibility, we have a covenant with higher energy to do the work on ourselves. And the reason this world is so crazy is that nobody does the work on themselves. They're fixing the external world, but nobody's fixing what's inside themselves. If they would learn to fix what's inside themselves, the whole external world would change. If people learned how to live with open hearts, quiet minds, listening to other people, trusting life, seeing the sacred nature of life, this world would change. But 8 billion people are not going to do this. So we have a crazy world. So what is our alternative? We need to get strong enough to be able to deal with this crazy world without letting it throw us off balance, without letting it disconnect us from higher energy in the universe or God or whatever one wants to call it. So that's where meditation comes in. It builds a chakra system. It gets one strong inside and being able to deal with this strange creature called life that we have to deal with every day. And then you begin to realize another thing. The external world is nothing more or less than a mirror of what exists inside each and every human being.
Yeah.
When we look out at life, we see a mirror of ourselves. And there isn't a person alive that doesn't have some kind of a war going on inside them, anger, some kind of revengeful thing. And instead of using that as a reminder that they have to grow inside, they begin to take it out on the objective world. And all they're doing is taking it out on themselves. Because the reason why all of this stuff goes on is that people are crazy inside. People are unhappy, they're vengeful, they're miserable inside, and they're blaming the world and they're trying to take it out on the world instead of saying, hey, this is telling me something. This is telling me that I got to fix the real problem. And the real problem is not out there, it's inside me.
Exactly. Absolutely. Ah, superb. Stuart, before we conclude this, I believe this has been such a beautiful conclusion to this exploration on meditation, inner peace, and mindfulness. One final question that really comes to my mind. Do you believe that if these discussions, these accounts of lived experiences, if they can be introduced in the uh, different curriculum or in the education systems, maybe depending on countries to countries, maybe right from the childhood, if we as humans can be introduced to uh, the beauty, the effectiveness, and the importance of something which is called as life or breath or mindfulness or inner peace. Do you think that there we can still hope for some change out there?
I think, look, um, I used to teach this at a university in Dallas, Texas. I would teach this as an accredited course, the kind of
Okay.
Kundalini meditation that I practice, the inner work that I practice. But, you know, uh, whether somebody learns this or not is totally dependent upon the need that exists inside a human being.
Hmm.
And it's something that, they say in the Bhagavad Gita, so that many are called and few are chosen. Everybody's born. Everybody has mind and breath, and everybody is given the opportunity to learn this. The kind of things I talk about. It depends entirely upon their need. Mostly people's need in life is money and, you know, relationships and all kinds of things of that nature. And what I learned is that money and relationships and doing these does not interfere with a spiritual life.
Mm.
If your need becomes just to make money and just to have a house and a car and a this and a that, it begins to interfere with your spiritual. But if your need is to take on this source, connect with this source of higher energy, it will give you everything that you have to work out in your karma. If you need to be married with 5 children, you will have it. If you need to make tons of money, you will have it. And you have it to learn how to use it to surrender inside deeply so that you can continue to build a connection with higher energy in the universe. Uh, do I believe that, I believe, honestly believe in reincarnation. I
Mm.
believe that people are given lifetimes to learn how to connect with spirit. And
Mm.
eventually, when a person has hit their head against a wall enough, they begin to start listening. What do I have to do to get free of me? And it takes lifetimes after lifetime. And the universe provides that for us because people need that. It takes lifetimes to just begin to learn, hey, I am the problem. What do I need to do to fix me? What do I need to do to fix me? And as soon as a person recognizes that, the door will open to a spiritual journey. And that door doesn't negate family. It doesn't negate, friendship. It doesn't negate, jobs and money and success in life. It doesn't negate anything. It just shows you, you know, that it's possible to do all these things and still stay connected with spirit. Because what I have learned, look, I've learned in my life, that life itself is sacred. And it's teaching me every single day. I mean, look, I've been in business. I've had, I used to have galleries in New York. I would deal with very wealthy people. I used to make a bunch of money. It never interfered. I'll tell you a story. I had a big loft in Manhattan years ago that I used as a meditation center. And I also used to have, you know, paintings there and sculptures there that I would sell to my clients. I also had a
Yep.
gallery on the street. And a client would call me up and would say, I need to come by about 7 o'clock to see the sculpture that we've been talking about. And I would say to them, look, at 7 o'clock, I can't do it. I have a
Mm.
meditation class to teach. I said, if you want to come at 8, 8:30, you want to come at 5, there's no problem. We can do it. You know, I'm talking about very expensive things, son. I used to, I never lost a client. I never lost a client. They all respected it and they would come when we could have time together. And
Yes.
life is like that, you know? I mean, life is it, when a person needs a spiritual life, it even provides you businesses that enable you to do it. It provides you ways of making money that enable you to also, uh, include the process that you're working on to grow spirit. Everything gets included. Karma becomes an extraordinary friend.
Yeah.
It's like the Red Sea in the Moses waves a wand and the Red Sea parts. Suddenly life begins to part that way and make possible for so many different things to take place that you need to work out in your life. And at the same time, to do deep inner meditation practice that gives you a connection with spirit. So what I'm saying is that everything is an excuse until somebody truly needs to have a spiritual life. Then there are no more excuses. The universe begins to work for you in such a profound way. And it provides incredible ways of living. I mean, look, it provided the fact that I've been in India 40 times. No,
Yeah.
I mean, how many people do you know in the world who have been to India 40 times? And all over the world. I used to teach meditation all over the world. South America, Europe. I taught it in India. I taught, I had books. I was able to write books because that was always a big interest of mine to write books. And I've written a dozen books. which 9 of them have been. Everything flows through a human being and becomes creatively possible because they build a system inside that lets it happen. Doesn't have to make it happen, just lets it happen. And on top of it all, it gives you the capacity to connect with spirit and use everything in life as a reminder that you've got to go deeper inside yourself in order to do this life and sustain an openness in the heart and to live with ananda, to live with bliss, to live with happiness, and to not ever allow the elements of life to interfere with that. In order to do what I'm talking about, Sana, you have to be very strong inside. And it takes the work through meditation, and not just maybe what I do, but somebody has to find a form of meditation that can help them build that kind of inner strength so that life itself becomes this incredible friend. It teaches us. And even the hard things, the difficult things, the painful things that go on, we don't look at them as something negative. They just are a teacher about how we need to go deeper inside ourselves and open. So life is the university to me. Life is the teacher. Life is this extraordinary, and a guru that we all need to be able to embrace and understand that is constantly the good, the bad, the indifferent, and the ugly is constantly teaching us what we need to learn about ourselves to grow inside. Now, if people would approach it that way and learn to live that way, there'd be very big changes in this world. Very big changes in this. But,
Absolutely.
I mean, that's almost like, there's 8 billion people. I'm telling you, if there's one person thinking somewhere, there's going to be a war somewhere.
Ex- that's such a beautiful answer, Stuart. Beautiful, beautiful reflection, and very, very uh, important one. And of course, before we conclude, I'm very sure our listeners will be so much curious to explore further. So, if they would need further guidance or they would like to share their thoughts, they would like to connect with you. You also have a book as well. If they would like to connect with you, what will be the easiest way?
Well, here's a book. I just published this book, Rudra Meditation, Transforming Life's Tensions into Joy and Love. It can be gotten literally almost anywhere in the world, from Amazon, Ingram Spark, at just about any bookstore, even in India, that sells English books, books in English, probably orders their books from Ingram Spark, and you can get the book there. So it's available. Other thing is, I teach 7 classes a week on Zoom.
Wow.
I do this because I used to do it traveling around the world. And when COVID hit, I was like, what do I do now? I can't travel.
Yeah.
And somebody said to me, what about Zoom? I said, well, what's Zoom? I had no idea what it was. If it told me. So I said, okay, let me try this. I tried it and it worked. I was stunned. I couldn't believe that the Shakti, this energy, the power of it could be transmitted through a computer. I was just stuck. And I was kidding around with somebody. I said, what I teach is probably 100,000 years old. It's one of the most ancient forms of meditation. And I'm using it in the modern age.
Exactly.
On Zoom, doing these podcasts and, with the computer, meeting people, wonderful people like you, who are really interested in this stuff, And I said, well, all right, as I said before, the universe will find a way for you to do what you have to do in the world. So people can get in touch with me. My email is Stuart D. Perrin, Stuart, D is in David, Perrin, Perrin, at gmail.com. I answer every email that I get. And if people are interested in finding out about my Zoom classes, they're welcome. Also, I just started an Instagram,
Wow.
and we posting things every day on the Instagram account. And one other thing, after every meditation class that I give, there's a question and answer period.
Hmm.
And people, I mean, there's 1,400 videos of me on Facebook and YouTube talking about these things, answering people's questions, like the conversation we just had. There's 1,400 of them on YouTube, Facebook, like this conversation we just had. So I'm readily available, for people. And I love it when people come and they really have a need to grow. There's no greater gift that anyone can give me than that kind of gift, a need inside themselves to do deep inner work and transform themselves inside into a person who's literally becomes a human being, lives with joy and love and gratitude, you know. And so, yeah, I'm readily available, Sana, and I've always been available, and my teacher was always available, and it's just great because you never know what life is going to bring, and you never know what kind of teaching is going to come to you. Who's going to bring you something important you need to learn about your life?
Exactly, exactly. Well, listeners, I'm going to have all the links mentioned in the show notes. So go check out, connect with Stuart, check out his YouTube, check out his book Rudra Meditation, and if I can conclude this conversation, listeners, I think this is this has been such an enriching one, and what stands out to me here is that meditation, mindfulness, and inner peace aren't destinations, they are capacities we develop, not to escape life, but to meet it more honestly. So, Stuart, thank you so much for bringing both depth and realism to this conversation. This was absolutely beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome, Sana, and thank you for having me and letting me share all the things I've learned with yourself and people that are going to be watching this podcast. Thank you very much for letting me be here.
Thank you. Thank you, Stuart. And thank you to all the listeners for tuning in. And all I can say is peace isn't something you achieve by becoming someone else. It is something that emerges when you stop fighting who you already are. Until next time, this is The Mindful Living. I am Sana, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you.